Good afternoon, folks, and thanks for joining us. My name is Tim Wheaton. We are the MMA Sucka crew. I am joined, as always, by the editor at MMA Sucka, Frazer Krohn. Frazer, how are you doing today, sir?
Yeah, good. Thank you, mate. Looking forward to hearing about all your stories from obviously you were live at Bellator last weekend. So should we just jump straight into that card, shall we?
Yeah, sure. That works. That works. Here's the thing. One of the weird, I'll get the bads out of the way right away because it's Bellator is so close to being a really good promotion and it's so close to doing all the right steps, but they kind of, and I don't want to say too much bad about them, but like they're always one step away from doing amazing and huge things. And what I mean by this is like you had a card in London headlined by Michael Venom Page. He's trying to avenge his only loss. It's a great storyline. This is very good. But you made it a 3 round fight. And then in your co-headliner, you had two girls who have a combined 6 wins. That's who you're trying to promote on this card? Why? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what was the point of this? The main card ended up being kind of like the prelims on Bellator were great, but yeah, the live event was really good because the Wembley crowd was just outstanding. These people were ready for a live audience. It's been a long time since they've had any wins with the Euro Cup loss, and then Joshua lost the week before. So seeing MVP win, I think, was a very big deal for these people. But yeah, the live event was really good. But yeah, for that co-main event, the Leah McCourt fight, for reference, I have we sit on press row, and on the right hand of me is the BBC, and behind me is MMA Junkie. But the BBC during that fight went and got a smoke, and then came back and asked me what happened, for reference of how much of that co-main event meant to people. So yeah, they were great to the media though. Of like, if you get a chance to work with them, they're very friendly. They're very good. After every fight, they walked up to us and asked, like, do you want an interview with that guy? So that was really good. But yeah, the no contest due to eye poke. Leah McCourt won her fight. Luke Trainer did well. Luke Trainer is a very good fighter. Lewis Long did well. The David Gallen fight versus Kane Musa was a really good one. Jack Grant defeated Nathan Jones. That was really good too. Nathan Jones' family was sitting right in front of us, so we couldn't say anything about like Nathan Jones looks bad here. Couldn't say that, but
Yeah, yeah.
he kind
It's a
of
bit awkward, isn't it?
yeah, and he fell on that side. So his family's like 3 feet away from him getting beat up during the TKO finish, and you're just like, oh, can't
Yeah.
can't say anything. But yeah, the card was good. The main event, the crowd was really good. I think it was quite boring on TV, but the live audience was awesome.
Because I watched I was working, but I managed to get home in time to just literally watch the co-main, Liam McCourt, and the main event.
Mhm.
What I thought interesting, you know, they were talking up almost sort of talking up Liam McCourt to be, a few more fights than she fights Cyborg. Absolutely not. No way is she anywhere close. Yes, her striking looked improved in this one, but she is nowhere near the level of, even a Leslie Smith, in my opinion. She, as ridiculous as it sounds, no one likes getting punched in the face. She does not like she doesn't react well to getting hit. You know, admittedly, she wasn't hit an awful lot. And was it her opponent Borger? I think it was.
Yeah, Borga.
She, she it's strange. She seemed fine after the first round, and then almost instantly starting the second round, she seemed very tired. Hands were down, more just almost taking jabs on the forehead and the top of her head, and rather than trying to slip them. It seemed a strange fight, but and then you go into the main event, and like you said, the atmosphere in person must have been amazing, and it looked really good through the broadcast.
Mm.
But we're still doing the same thing of having an American broadcast just put on the UK scene. There was a little bit more as far as they had. What I quite enjoyed was the dressing room interviews, which
Mm.
is something that the UFC don't do. I know they do it in boxing, but something the UFC don't do, which is definitely something, interviewing a Conor McGregor moments before his fight, or a Volkanovski moments before his fight, I think would do really well. You could get some decent sound bites out of that for the UFC, which is what they're all about. The viral knockouts, the 10-second sound bites. So I think that's something that I wouldn't be surprised to see the UFC implement in the next few years. But
Mm.
also, partway through the main event for me, the broadcast just stopped. It was the coloured lines and just beeping, and I had to restart refresh the page, and it went back on. So it's clearly still, they've done what, 5 or 10 shows on BBC iPlayer.
Yeah.
So they're still teething issues, but it definitely needs. I think they need a specific British broadcast for the event, and because in between rounds of Leah McCourt and Jessica Borger, they, rather than showing the corner work, occasionally they'd cut to a promo or something that was on Fox or on Showtime, but they wouldn't actually show it on the broadcast. So they'd cut to just a screen of an empty octagon. When you know that there's people in the octagon, you've literally just seen them. We know that they're having their 1 minute rest in between rounds.
Yeah.
And they just cut to an empty octagon and sort of zoom out. And it was very strange. But, you know, like I say, there's still going to be teething issues, and the atmosphere for the main event looks really good. So, you know, I think I wouldn't be surprised to see the Bellator return to the UK probably early next year.
Yeah, I think they're trying to do it fairly frequently, but based on kind of the feeling that they're really investing in where the UFC is not investing, which makes a lot of sense. Like they've already been to Paris, they've already been to Rome, they're in London this month, they're in Dublin next month, so that's really good. But yeah, it is weird that they wouldn't have, and they made such a big deal about being on the BBC iPlayer, and then they just still just use the regular American broadcast from Showtime. Like, why didn't you just get some exclusive content, some exclusive sponsors, an exclusive broad? You didn't have to fly to Big John. You could have got anybody from the UK to do the talking through the fights. It would have felt a little bit better.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, they had the desk, and they had Josh Thompson, Gegard Mousasi, and you know, that was good. But that's still what's going out to the American fans, you know, and that's fine. But why not have, you know, Paul Daly? Just even just a quick 5-minute interview with Paul Daly. They interviewed Randy Couture, you know, interview Paul Daly, or have Paul Daly on a desk with even Gareth A. Davis. You know, Gareth A. Davis is all over Bellator all the time. Get him on the desk. Get Paul Daly. You know, Paul Daly's also got the history of the MVP. Get him on the desk. So, you know, there's definitely an opportunity there missed. But with that being said, the relationship with the BBC and the BBC iPlayer, I think it can't go wrong for Bellator, but it can definitely improve.
Yeah, I agree with you on this is still the same thing of like you're one step away from being really good at what you're doing here. But yeah, Gareth A. Davies is good. They have their own Dutch broadcast team. Like they did this, they have their own exclusive programming with the Netherlands, but not with the UK. I don't understand you guys.
Yeah, it doesn't seem logical to me. But with that being said, you know, neither do the UFC, but I think they're putting more plans in place to maybe break into the British market.
So the UFC is sent, because the UFC also does shows in American time zones when they're in the UK, or they do it in American time zones when they're New Zealand, Australia. So they're clearly not trying to show that they care, because they don't care. The Bellator was trying to do the opposite of like, we do care about the local market, so we're going to go there during your time zone and on your channel. And then just like, again, it's like one step away from being so good, right? Because they're really trying to show that they care, and then they kind of just drop, you know,
yeah, exactly. And like you say, being on local time for us is you know, that's excellent. But
yeah,
and I think that makes a big difference, because that probably got quite a lot of views on the iPlayer. I know it's slightly different because it's a streaming service of you either can stream it live or you can watch it after the fact. But you know, just going into the UFC this weekend, that is not a card that's going to get me up, staying up until 5-6 o'clock in the morning. It's I don't know, this weekend Dern versus Rodriguez is slightly earlier, the main card kicks off, but even so, you know, I'll watch the main card, and because it won't finish that late. But even though Santos and Walker is going to be a banger, it's got no real implications in the division. So why am I going to stay up till 6 o'clock in the morning when I can just watch it on repeat on Sunday morning at 8 o'clock? You know, and I'm glad that I didn't, because in my opinion, the fight was awful, but I think I dodged a bullet there.
Let's talk about it. Let's jump into this weekend's card. Somehow we had a 5-round fight. They threw about less than 100 significant strikes were landed in this fight. I actually haven't seen it because people said don't watch it, it's lame. So I said, okay, no problem. Tell me a little bit about Thiago Santos and Johnny Walker.
It's going to make me sound really quite... I'm not going to come across well, but I don't think Santos and Walker are skilled enough to keep me entertained for 25 minutes. Yeah. Now, watching Volkanovski and Ortega last week, for 25 minutes, I was on the edge of my seat for 23 of those minutes, you know.
And it's 4 a.m. for you as well. Like, it's
Exactly,
amazing.
exactly. But with Santos and Walker, they are reckless knockout artists, which, you know, it might sound bad calling them reckless, but that's exactly what they are. You see Johnny Walker's knockout of Ryan Spann, he was almost knocked out himself and he gets the knockout. His knockout of Justin Ledet, I think it was, when he throws a spinning kick or a flying knee or something, lands, spinning back fist on the break, gets the knockout. These are, I don't want to say fluke knockouts, but they're definitely not the most skilled as far as, you know, I've drilled this in training kind of knockouts.
Mm-hmm.
Same with Thiago Santos. He, like when we saw him against Jan Blachowicz, he caught Blachowicz trying to, you know, get out of range with his hands down, caught him, game over. In my opinion, they're not skilled enough to keep me entertained for 25 minutes. God, 25 rounds, God, absolutely not. But 25 minutes, you know. And, you know, I'm not saying that they're bad fighters at all, because they're both top 10, top 5 guys. But with that being said, you know, are any of them going to make a run at the title anytime soon? No, because you've got Projatka. I mean, Dominic Reyes, I think, would be a tough fight for them both. Rakic, Blachowicz, obviously Glover Teixeira beat Santos quite convincingly. You know, I can't see any of them making a title run. And yes, they are fun, but what's next for Johnny Walker now? He's clearly not top 5.
Yeah.
But he beats probably 8 to 10 or 8 to 15 even. You know, so but yeah, the fight itself, a couple of good exchanges, but other than that, I'm not sure if John Kavanagh is the best fit for Johnny Walker, because I'm personally, I was big on John Kavanagh when McGregor was coming up. You know, I read his book, Win or Learn.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I definitely bought into that whole thing. But since then, you know, McGregor hasn't won a fight in a long, long time. I'm becoming a little bit more unconvinced on John Kavanagh as the fights go on, especially in big fights. You know, when he's got, you know, loads of fighters. You know, he does corner Gunnar Nelson. You know, and Nelson hasn't won in a long time since he really sort of broke into the upper echelons. So is John Kavanagh a good coach when taking into account sort of a lower level of opposition? Definitely, you know, the Dennis Seaver fight, you know, although McGregor did plan the Aldo knockout, we saw, you know, the footage backstage. 9 times out of 10, that doesn't happen. You know, let's be honest. You know, it's not a fluke by any chance, because he was practicing it. But 9 times out of 10, Aldo doesn't rush in like that. And, you know, if that would have gone longer in my MMA, what if Aldo beat McGregor? You know, I spoke through what would have likely been the outcome of that fight. It sort of reflects badly on Kavanagh, and, you know, he admitted that he was too defensive. He got Conor into too defensive mindset against Khabib, to not recognize a more boxing heavy approach that is going to lead to the lead leg getting attacked in the first or the second Poirier fight, and then the third Poirier fight. We're not, yes, there was a leg break, but we weren't really sure what the game plan was. Even going, you know, am I going to strike with him? Am I going to clinch with him? You know, we broke that down in a lot of detail with McGregor even shooting him for the clinch. So at the moment, I'm unconvinced whether John Kavanagh is the right fit for Johnny Walker, but, you know, it might work out. Maybe Santos was just, you know, the better man on the night.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Kavanagh, it's a hard one with SBG Ireland, because I'm not sure the quality of Jim in terms of Conor McGregor may have been a once in a generation talent, and he would have had that success from any gym, regardless of where he was, or it was a huge amount of John Kavanagh influence. I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is, but yeah, you and I talked quite a while ago about maybe Conor having to move camps because he's clearly learned everything he can at SBG Ireland. But yeah, for John, I thought the Johnny Walker move into SBG was an odd move anyway. That was always a weird one, because usually guys to move to some of the super gyms like ATT and AKA or TriStar, stuff like that, Was he at TriStar for a bit, or am I mistaken? But yeah, most of them moved to.
He's moved around a lot. I know that he hasn't been at one gym for any. He's not a career long ATT or AKA guy. I know that for a fact. I think he has been at TriStar.
That's so too.
He also, he strikes me as the kind of guy whose style is difficult to train. You can train the basics, but if you train the basics too much, you're taking away what Johnny Walker is.
Mm.
He's a crazy, knockout artist that hasn't got the best technique, but it works. Francis Ngannou's on paper got terrible technique.
He does.
As far as striking is concerned, he leaves his chin right up in the air. He swings his arms from behind him almost, but it works. Don't try and take that away. It's like when Joshua fought Usyk a few weeks ago. Joshua was never going to outbox Usyk. Joshua was a knockout artist. Go back to what you know and pounce on him for 4 or 5 rounds. Hit him with everything you've got. Yes, you might get clipped, but he's a cruiserweight coming up to heavyweight, and you're a career-long heavyweight, super heavyweight in the Olympics. You're more likely to knock him out than he is to knock you out. So just go for it for 5 or 6 rounds. And if you gas out, then you gas out then, but you've got more of a chance of winning than you have got of outboxing Usyk. So,
I think that's a good point. Breaking out of the mold, right?
Exactly. And with Johnny Walker, don't try and be this technical striker that stands with Santos, and that's not your game. You got famous from being a crazy knockout artist. It's like Michel Pereira. He's done it in a clever way that he started off great. Against Danny Roberts, he was jumping off the cage. He was doing, spinning back kicks and spinning flips and rolling thunders and all this.
Yeah.
But then he's now scaled it back to a more measured approach. But he still has that threat of every fight he does throw some capoeira move or a spinning back kick, or he'll jump off the fence and dummy something. So he's always keeping his opponent guessing, but he's also implemented the jab into his game and the low kick into his game. In my opinion, the jab and the low kick in MMA are fundamentals these days.
Yes.
They're what needs to be used to nullify anything that your opponent. If your opponent's a striker, you hit the low kick, they're going to be a little bit softer on the lead leg. If your opponent's a wrestler, the low calf kick, they're going to have to bend down really quite far to collect that leg to attempt to take you down, which then obviously leaves them open for the knee, the uppercut. So these are the fundamentals that someone like a Michel Pereira has implemented into his game.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Johnny Walker is, I think you can't implement that kind of stuff because it just goes too far away from his original game, and it leads to him becoming, very rudimentary. Fundamentally, he's behind in years to most of the division, but he's got to where he is through being just crazy and throwing these spinning elbows, spinning back kicks. Stick to what you know almost.
And it's the punches that you don't see coming, because if you're training the same combinations as other guys, they're going to be aware of it. A lot of guys in training have said that some of the weirdest punches in sparring are like guys who are grapplers who have no idea what they're doing, just because you're not defensively prepared for punches that you don't see coming. And that's kind of what Thiago Santos, or sorry, not Thiago Santos, Johnny Walker used to do, is just throw the strike that no one was expecting him to throw. But now he's being drilled a little bit more in standard kickboxing, which I'm not sure, like you said, works with his style, but it is questionable that he went to a gym to focus the stuff that he's not bad at, instead of like wrestling and jiu-jitsu and stuff like that, where he clearly has gaps. I don't know. This fight was clearly quite boring. I don't think we need to break it down any further. Like I don't know what the future holds for either of these guys, but I don't think it's going to be great.
No, I think Santos maybe hit his peak when he narrowly lost to Jones. Obviously, he ripped his knees apart in that one. He's never looked the same since. And for Johnny Walker, I think he is still quite young. He's only 29. But with that being said, he was well beaten by Nikita Krylov in the wrestling game. He's now been outstruck by Thiago Santos.
Yeah, these aren't great. Great.
And, these aren't the top. Krylov is good, but he's not the top of the division. Santos, again, is good, but he's, I'd say, past his prime. Maybe a few more years working at SBG full-time might evolve his game ever so slightly, but he doesn't beat the upper echelons of the division by any stretch. If you try and bring back that crazy striking style against a Prochaska, I mean, I'd watch that all day because that would just be nuts. But the guys with better fundamentals are going to beat Johnny Walker all day. If you have a Dominic Reyes, he's going to slam the leg kick into Johnny Walker all day, and it's going to absolutely nullify that explosivity. So, I think everyone will always tune in for a Johnny Walker fight because of the kind of everything that he brings around it. But there was far more performances on this card that I was more impressed with than the main event.
There's 18 head strikes landed in this 25-minute affair. So yeah, Kevin Holland gets a headbutt, and they call it a no contest after he's choked out in the first round to Kyle DeKaus. Do you want to throw anything on that? I think everyone's talked about this one at length. Is that a fair decision?
Yeah. I think it's the right decision. He was clearly knocked out, and I know Kevin Holland's come out and said, Darkus should have got the win because he knocked me out and choked me out. Well,
it was an illegal strike. It was an illegal strike, yeah.
And it obviously Darkus didn't do it on purpose. I think he was shooting in for it wasn't even a low takedown. I think he was just almost shooting in to crowd the space and push Kevin Holland away. And it was just unlucky as far as the timing of both men. We get head clashes all the time, and it's there's sort of brushing head clashes. They do cause cuts, especially in boxing. We saw with Tyson Fury and Otto Wallin that he's got that really bad cut over his eyebrow. But this is what it is. They'll run it back, I'm sure, in a few weeks. But with that being said, Kevin Holland was looking good in that fight. He got taken down, I think, once. I'm not even sure if the takedown would have got credited because he bounced straight back up to his feet. He's still doing his talking across the octagon to DC, saying, DC, look at my wrestling, it's improved. I think, the no contest is the right decision because you can't tell me that Darkus would have choked Holland out had he not been clearly knocked out beforehand. So, yeah, the no contest, in my opinion, was the right decision. Big John McCarthy's come out and said, I would have called it a no contest because it was a fight-ending sequence as a result of an illegal strike. Yes, it was an illegal strike. It wasn't an intentional illegal strike. It's one of those things that happens, and I'm sure they'll run it back, even in a few weeks. I'm not sure what the medical suspension is for Holland, having been knocked out, but I don't think it'll be anything major because he wasn't out for any prolonged period of time. So, end of the year card, maybe. I doubt that we'll see it on the Usman Covington card, but maybe the end of December card we could see it, which I think, absolutely fine. Neither guy took any massive damage in the fight, so they won't have to wait too long. But it was a shame because the fight was just playing out to be quite a good one, but these things happen, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's too bad for Kevin Holland. He was looking promising. He had a great 2020, and then he kind of he's having a less good 2021 at this point. Nico Price, Krzysztof Joko, Alexander Hernandez, Jared Gordon all get wins. We also had Betch Correia. She's now retired. Who else impressed you on the card that you want to touch on?
Casey O'Neill. For me, MVP of the night. I said to you when we spoke about our halfway sort of year awards, as it were, that she's my prospect to watch, her and Tom Aspinall. But I'll shoehorn him in every week. But no, Casey O'Neill for me is, I wrote a piece this week about how King Casey O'Neill conquers again. She's looked good. And her past two opponent, Shayna Dobson, and I can't remember the girl's name, but she's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. She TKO'd Shayna Dobson. She submitted the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. And now she's just TKO'd Antonina Shevchenko, and she's 23 years old, and she's 3-0 with 3 finishes in the UFC. It's rare in women's fights as a whole that we get finishes, let alone 3 in a row from a debutant at just 23. She's a savage. She speaks well off the mic. On the mic. She's got a polarizing story of born in Scotland, moved to Australia, a lot of training in Thailand, now works out of Extreme Couture. She's got a strong wrestling base, really good jiu-jitsu. She was in tough positions against Shevchenko, who herself hasn't got the best jiu-jitsu, but anyone can put you in a tough position, and she works out of those. Her striking is getting there for sure. It's definitely not better in this fight, and like I say, she's only 23 years old, and she's 3-0 with 3 finishes. She needs a number next to her name.
Yeah.
She might even have a number next to her name now. I haven't checked the rankings lately, but
I'll check.
it's only fair, you know. We've got girls in the rankings above her that. Oh yeah, so she's now ranked number 14. So rightfully so, you know. We've got Miranda Maverick, who is 2-1 in the UFC with one finish and one decision. She's now ranked above her. Macy Barber started her career off really well in the UFC, but
Yes.
you know, there's no saying that the way that Casey O'Neill started her career off, there's no reason why Casey O'Neill shouldn't be having as much hype as Macy Barber.
Yes.
Just because she's just because she's saying that she doesn't want to. Sorry, just because she's not saying she wants to be the youngest UFC champion in history doesn't mean that she doesn't deserve that hype, you know. And I put in my piece that I think the next fight for her should be Roxanne Modafferi.
I like Roxy.
You know,
I don't want to see her get beat up.
that's the thing, you know. But with that being said, she beat Macy Barber, who was the up and comer savage at the time, and you know, there's no reason why she couldn't beat Casey O'Neill. I don't think she does, but there's no reason why she couldn't, you know. So
does Macy Barber have a fight lined up at the moment?
I don't think so. She's coming off the win against Miranda Maverick, isn't she? Where it's a contentious split decision. She obviously lost to Alexa Grasso. But
Montana De La Rosa apparently in December, excuse me.
Oh, right, okay. Well, De La Rosa is the obviously the one that's just dropped out of the rankings to accommodate Casey O'Neill, so that should be a good one.
Should be fine, I guess. Yeah, so I think, like you said, Casey O'Neill is extremely talented. She got 3 finishes in the UFC very quickly. She likely beats a lot of the people in front of her. It's just a matter of finding the right matchup without stunting any of the other prospects, because people like Vivian Araujo and Alexa Grasso are really good prospects that I don't think we want to see lose quite yet. But yeah she likely beats like Cynthia Calvillo, like Lauren Murphy at Kagan. Is Jessica Ai still around? Yeah, she can probably beat.
I have no idea how, but she's still ranked, I think she's ranked quite highly as well, you know. Well, she's ranked number 8. She's in the top 10.
That might be a
division
okay one.
Where I have no idea how. I think Jessica Ai's got a fight lined up at the moment. I think I can't remember against who, but I think Casey O'Neill's the real deal. And at 23 years old, she said she wants to take a little bit of time off. Let her, you know, she could take a year off. She could take 2 years off even, and she'd still only be 25 years old when she comes back. I know she won't, but you know, I don't want to see her now until March, April next year when she's had a prolonged period of time off, let her body heal, learn some new skills, and then really attack that top 10, top 5 next year.
That's true. And don't rush into these higher levels until you really need to. Really take your time as a prospect. Jessica Ai on a 3-loss streak is fighting Andrea Lee this November.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we will move forward. Anyone else on the card you want to touch on before we move forward?
I don't think so. I think overall, you know, the card on paper wasn't great, but
on TV it also wasn't.
No. Yeah, exactly. But you know, the night started off with 5 finishes in 6 fights, and then the one fight that went to decision was Carol Rosa against Betchka Hare, who, you know, Carol Rosa looked really good. I mean, I think a lot of people look good against Betchka Hare, who's, I think, highlight of, in my opinion, I was trying to think of when I was watching the fight, they were talking, you know, she's retiring after this fight, it's definitely her last fight. Highlights of her career for me are telling Ronda Rousey not to cry and then getting knocked out in a little over a minute.
Yep.
And then telling Holly Holm to come on and then getting question mark kicked and finished. That's what I'm going to remember Betchka Hare for, and I'm not mad about it, to be honest.
And you know what the funny thing is about Betchka Hare? She's unforgettable. Like, I'm not going to forget her legacy. She has some awkward legacy in the UFC, and she's a human being I will talk about to like my grandchildren. Of like, you should have seen her. She was not athletic, not skilled, but she was there.
She made her way to a title shot, and she made her way to fight Holly Holm, and who's obviously a former champion. And she's always been in and around the top 15, which, you know, I'm pretty sure she's one of these girls that'll make the top 15 on a Jessica Ai on a 3-fight loss streak. So, you know, I think she'll be a miss for the division, but not as far as a competitive. I just think as a personality, she'll be a miss for the division.
Yeah, No, it's a fun little story that we have. I know this weekend, I don't think we're going to spend too much time on it, but we have the Rising Stars headlining, and it is actually an intriguing fight, but we won't spend too long on it. But we have Marina Rodriguez versus Mackenzie Dern. Both are rising stars in the UFC. Both are young prospects who are quite highly skilled in very different disciplines. Marina Rodriguez is a much lengthier striker. She held off everyone else that she's fought in the UFC. She's beaten Michelle Waterson, people like this. Maybe has a little bit of a weakness to wrestling, as she did lose to Carla Esparza. Mackenzie Dern, on the other hand, is a jiu-jitsu specialist who's on a good win streak right now. Both of them are quite a good size for women's strawweight, and it is a fair headlining fight. It's not a bad one. What do you think of this fight coming into it?
Yeah, I'm really excited for this. Again, I spoke when we spoke about the sort of mid-year awards. Rodriguez is up there with my fight of the female fight of the year. Yes, she hasn't had the best competition, but she's performed in every one of those. You know, she brutal knockout of Amanda Ribas.
Yes.
Took a main event slot. Yes, it was up at flyweight, but against Michelle Waterson and
got a shutout. Just completely shut down Michelle Waterson.
Exactly. Who, you know, she's a difficult puzzle to sort out, Michelle Waterson, with her style, but you know, let's be honest, she's a striker, the karate hottie, but she can wrestle as well, and she's got a solid ground game. So, and yeah, Rodriguez just nullified all of Michelle Waterson's attacks. And now coming up against Mackenzie Dern, I've got a piece coming out this afternoon, a preview for that.
Nice.
For this fight. And
I'll put it down below.
Thank you very much. And yeah, it's a good one. I think whoever wins this fight really positions themselves well in the division. And I wouldn't be surprised to see the winner of this fight, depending on how long she wants to sit out, face Joanna Jędrzejczyk. You know, Jędrzejczyk's still always going to be a title contender for as long as she's in the division. We've obviously got the rematch scheduled, and at strawweight, it's looking a little thin on the ground. You know,
Carla Esparza, and that's about it.
Yeah, Carla Esparza, and then everybody else is on a bit of a loss streak. You know, you got Claudia Gadeja on a loss streak. Yan Xiaonan just lost to Carla Esparza convincingly as well. You know, going a little bit further back, you know, Amanda Ribas coming off the TKO to Marina Rodriguez. It's looking a little thin on the ground. So I think the winner of this one definitely positions themselves at least for a final eliminator against an Esparza or a Jędrzejczyk, or, you know, don't be surprised to see them fill in short notice, even in a title shot. You know, these things happen, like we've seen with Corey Sandhagen this week, filling in for Aljo Sterling. You know, these things happen. It doesn't necessarily always go to the most deserving title contender, but it goes to the one that's ready and willing to take that fight. And someone like a Rodriguez will take that fight, you know, for a fact.
Oh, absolutely. She's got a fairly good record in the UCB scene. Jessica Aguilar, Tisha Torres. She's got 2 draws, weirdly enough, with Cynthia Calvillo and Randa Marcos. Mackenzie Dern is a multi-time Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion. And she's also large for the weight class. I think Rodriguez, I'll check their sizes here, but I think they're actually fairly close in size. Both of them are fairly big for this weight class. But yeah, like you said, this has title contention written all over it. It's quite a fun fight. Like the winner of this fight really does go on to bigger and better things here. Yeah,
for sure. And, you know, comparing it to this past weekend, I could see Marina Rodriguez in a title shot. I can see Mackenzie Dern in a title shot. I'm never going to, you know, I can't foresee Johnny Walker being in a title shot anytime soon, or Thiago Santos getting another shot at the belt. And these are 2 fresh faces. You know, Santos has had his opportunity at the top, and he's fought the top guys. He's on his way down, and he's trying to look to bounce back. We haven't seen Mackenzie Dern against anyone elite, really. The best fighter she's fought, maybe Nina Ansaroff. So
that's correct, yeah.
And Rodriguez, Amanda Ribas is a good fighter, but at the moment, not top 5. And, you know, Michelle Waterson's been there. She's been in there with some of the, you know, she's been in there with Rose. She's been in there with Joanna. But again, she's lost to these people. So these are 2 fresh faces in the division. I think it's a really intriguing matchup as well. You know, like you say, Rodriguez has got slight holes in the game when it comes to the ground game. She was taken down by Ribas. She was taken down by Esparza. But against Ribas, she got back up and finished the fight. Against Esparza, she cut Esparza up when they were down there. I think, you know, what I wrote in my piece is it's really important for Rodriguez to keep center octagon, because Mackenzie Dern's wrestling is not good at all. We spoke about it with Brian Ortega. It seems to be the jiu-jitsu guys don't have the best actual wrestling unless they can get their opponents back to the fence in the clinch and look for trips or look for single legs from there, threaten the guillotine and manage to get it to the floor. Rodriguez needs to keep, a lot like Alexander Usyk last week, the footwork's got to kept Usyk away from the side of the side of the ring where Joshua could unload on him. And that's exactly what Rodriguez needs to do. Mackenzie Dern's wrestling out in the open isn't, in my opinion, going to be too much an issue for Rodriguez, but it's when Dern pressures Rodriguez up to the fence is where it becomes an issue. And, the leg kick, the teep kick, the jab of Rodriguez is all going to be, vital to keep Dern off. And then Dern will, if she can't get the takedown in the first 2 or 3 rounds, she's going to get desperate, leading to, I think it's 3.57 significant strikes absorbed per minute. That's only in 3-round fights. As the more tired she gets in the 4th and the 5th round, it's going to be, and we know Rodriguez can go 5 rounds because we saw it last time out on short notice as well. So she would be in even better shape this time. I think I'm picking Rodriguez for this one, probably by unanimous decision, if not possibly a late stoppage. But I think Dern's game enough to not be stopped. So I think, Rodriguez by unanimous decision for me.
It seems like if Dern doesn't get it done early, like a submission within the first 5 minutes, she probably won't win the fight, right? You'll probably see Rodriguez start walking away with the fight. We don't know how well conditioned Dern has been because most of her fights are quite quick. I think in the past during long fights, she struggled a little bit, but like the Nina Nunes, she looked perfect. That's perfect. Just moving position to position to position, getting a submission, moving on. Marina Rodriguez, like you said, the teep kick, the leg kicks, the jab. She's very good technical striker, but we'll see. It's a 5-round fight, and that makes it even more exciting. But you're picking Rodriguez officially. I'll just pick Dern for fun. I'll pick Dern by round 1 sub. But it's a good fight. It's a good one.
Then we can discuss that next week and see where I went wrong or where or when you went wrong. But I think
I like Marina. She's good.
If and when it hits the floor, Rodriguez needs to get up as soon as possible because you don't want to be down there with Dern for any prolonged period of time. You don't want to try and stall with Dern either because, like you alluded to, the Nina Nunes fight, she was setting up an armbar, then she was setting up a choke, and then she was attacking, she was making Nunes aware of the leg, and she was position over submission the whole time. She was staying dominant on the ground. But she was, it was position over submission, but she was still had that inkling to, just shift away ever so slightly over and then snatch the arm and take the arm. It was beautiful to watch. But if you're Rodriguez, you want the less time your back's up against the fence probably translates to the less time that your back's going to be on the mat and the more chance you got of winning. So I think that would be, if I was her coaches, I'd be saying, look, keep it long, keep it rangy, and keep your back as far away from the fence as possible. If you have to meet her in the middle and strike with her, do that because you're the better technical striker. And hopefully it'll pay dividends for her.
Well, let's move on to the big fight this weekend. Heavyweight boxing, as we talked about last week, it's fun. It's finally fun. Like that's all there is to it. This was the fight that no one really wanted. I remember when it was announced that no one wanted to see Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder for a 3rd time. The first 2 times they fought, I know I picked Deontay Wilder for a prediction, so don't listen to me. But for a 3rd fight, I guess there's still a lot of hype. I think it's just a heavyweight boxing title fight. There's a lot of hype around, regardless of who it is or what the history is between those 2 men. But I think we've seen over 24 rounds now that Tyson Fury is clearly or not 24 rounds now, but nearly 20 rounds.
19? I think it stopped in the 7th. So the best part of 19, 20 odd rounds.
That Deontay's clearly won 1 round in that time. And then otherwise, Tyson Fury seems like the better boxer. Can Deontay Wilder make adjustments in this fight? Does he have a chance in this fight? What do you see in this big heavyweight title fight?
Short answer is yes, he can make adjustments, but no, he's not. The adjustments that he makes aren't going to work for him, in my opinion.
Gotcha.
Tyson Fury is the better boxer. He's the bigger guy. Not the bigger puncher, but he's shown that he knows how to use that punching power against Deontay Wilder in the 2nd fight. What I would debate is how Tyson approaches this fight because, if he goes in The first fight he outboxed him. The second fight he knocked him out. Now, the Joshua fight's off the table for Tyson now. So, what's his motivation going into it? Does he try and, if he outboxes him, people are going to say, well, you finished him last time. Are you declining? If he doesn't finish him as dominantly and, you know, quicker than in the second fight, people are going to be saying, you know, you finished him earlier in the second fight. Why couldn't you finish him in the third fight even quicker? You know, there was rumors going around that yes, Tyson, or there might have been an outbreak of COVID in Tyson's camp, but that Tyson was out of shape, not ready to fight when the fight was originally called off a few months ago. Obviously, they haven't been confirmed because no one's ever going to confirm that Tyson was too out of shape to get in shape for the fight itself. But I question what Tyson's motivation is, because he knows he can beat this guy fairly easily. So how, you know, I think if it was anybody else, he wouldn't be motivated. If he'd already essentially beaten the guy twice, he wouldn't be so motivated. But because of the kind of puncher that Wilder is, you have to be motivated. You have to be switched on. Otherwise, it's, you know, as we saw in the 12th round of the first fight, it's lights out, you know. So he has to be switched on, ready for a war. But I just can't see how Deontay Wilder wins, you know. I just can't see how he wins.
It's the same thing, and there's no like technical or really expert analysis, but it's the same thing we said over the last two fights of Deontay Wilder just needs to be perfect for 1 second, and Tyson Fury needs to be perfect for every second of the fight. And like, exactly. I don't know how he got up from that 12th round knockout. That was still just one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in my life. But I like you said, what new analysis can we break down? But let's say Deontay Wilder does get it done. He lands a big right hand, gets a knockout. He's got some of the greatest punching power in boxing history. Do you do a fourth fight, or what do you do now?
Exactly, that's the difficult thing, because the first fight was a draw.
It's a draw, yeah. Like Fury kind of won, but you know.
Yeah,
whatever.
Exactly. It makes it very awkward though, because like you say, do you do a fourth? I don't think the third fight will bring in as many numbers as a second.
No.
And that won't have brought in as many numbers as even the first, I don't think. Now, a fourth fight doesn't do the numbers that anybody's looking for, because simply it's boring. You know, we've seen it 3 times before. And depending on how this fight goes, more than likely, if Wilder's going to win, he's going to have clipped Fury. He's not going to. There's no chance he's outboxing Fury. Absolutely no chance. You know, I'd put my house on the fact that he's not going to win a decision unless he gets multiple knockdowns in multiple rounds, which, you know, it could happen, but it's not going to. Tyson's going to be in better shape for this one than he was the first fight, and Wilder only was able to get him down twice. One was a clip behind the ear in, I think it's the 7th or the 8th, and then the big knockdown in the 12th. But he's not outboxing him. He's not going to be able. I don't think he's got the skill to set up a knockout and trap Tyson into thinking that he's going to do something and do something else and knock Tyson out. So it's going to be similar to the knockdown in the 12th. If Tyson is a lapse in concentration, or if Wilder is able to clip Fury, and then pounce on him once he gets back to his feet. He's training with Malik Scott now, which to me doesn't make sense. He knocked Malik Scott out in the first round when they fought, and now Malik Scott's going to try and tell Wilder how to fight Fury and become it. No, it's like Conor McGregor trying to. Okay, it's not, but it's like Conor McGregor trying to teach, or Jose Aldo trying to teach Conor McGregor become Conor McGregor's coach. He knocked him out in the first round. It doesn't. To me, that doesn't make logical sense at all.
Yeah,
the guys that you trained with got you to the best part of, I think it's 38-0 or 38-1 even. Was it 38? It might have even been more than that. I'll just double check. Oh yeah. So the guys that you trained with got you to 42-0 with the draw against Tyson, and you just dropped them because they threw in the towel when you were clearly out of the fight.
Clearly, absolutely. Throwing in the towel was the right move to make.
Absolutely. If anything, it was a little late, but it
Yeah.
is what it is. The tower had to come in, and it was a good decision. Now, you can't tell me that, hypothetically speaking, if Khabib would have lost, he would have just completely moved camps from Javier Mendez's AKA team, and he wouldn't have just dropped his whole team. Floyd Mayweather wouldn't just drop his whole team if he would have, lost one.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Joshua, when he lost to Ruiz, didn't change teams. He may have added coaches to his team, but he didn't change. He still has Rob McCracken in his corner. Now the question is, does he change team now? Which is what we spoke about last week. Because has Rob McCracken taken Anthony Joshua as far as he can take him? Getting Malik Scott in the corner, it's not like Tyson Fury, who trained with his dad and changed camps. Now he's with the Krohn gym. He's constantly changing camps to get new looks and different looks, and have Freddie Roach and have Ben Davison in his corner. He's constantly changing, which it's no real surprise to see Tyson with a new coach and a new trainer. Whereas with Deontay Wilder, he hasn't even had a tune-up fight to get used to having that coach's advice in his ear between rounds, to be listening out for that particular voice, to be understanding the sequences and the patterns that the coach is going to be calling for in what is the biggest fight of his life. So it's a big risk. Will it pay off? Personally, I don't see how Wilder beats Fury in any way, shape, or form. I think Fury beats him every single day, and I hope he does, because, like you say, I've got nothing against Wilder. I do prefer Fury as a fighter, but I've got no interest in a fourth fight. And if Tyson's the kind of guy who will go after the money, and the money would probably be in a fourth fight, because Usyk doesn't pull in huge numbers. He spoke about facing Dillian White back in the UK in December. I'm not convinced that there's humongous numbers. Dillian White's set to face Otto Wallin, but Dillian White's not a massive ticket seller. To be honest, neither's Tyson Fury in the UK. That's why he's constantly fighting in Vegas.
Yeah.
A homecoming for Tyson Fury would pull in huge numbers, but you need to have the right opponent. And Dillian White isn't. In his youth, Dillian White would have been that opponent, but now that he's taken a more reserved approach, he's not that opponent. So I hope that Fury wins, because it opens up more avenues for a heavyweight division. Because we're running the risk of it becoming stale again, like we were speaking about with the Klitschko's. No shade on them. If they, they're not going to lose a fight on purpose just to make the division more interesting.
Yeah.
But it wasn't entertaining.
Yeah.
The heavyweight division was dying a slow death until you got the new blood of Wilder, Joshua, Fury, White. You got all these guys. You got on the cusp. You got Joe Joyce, Daniel Dubois, Lawrence Okoli probably going to make the move up from cruiserweight. You got Usyk. So it's exciting, and there's lots of options. But a lot of those options lie on Tyson beating Wilder this weekend and completely eradicating the opportunity of a fourth fight between the two guys, because the fourth fight kills the heavyweight division, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah, it just is repeating. And speaking of repeating, are they doing another Joshua Usyk fight? Or are they just running it back again?
I think instantly Joshua was calling for the rematch, understandably so, and I believe that there's a rematch clause in the contract. But it is what it is with Joshua. He's still a massive ticket seller.
Yeah.
But that would mean that Joshua has fought, in his past 5 fights, I think it is, he will have fought Andy Ruiz, and then Andy Ruiz again, then Pulev, then Usyk again. It's beginning to be a little like DC and Stipe Miocic, who were just seeming to fight each other with the odd one sprinkled in, the Derek Lewis. Joshua's a ticket seller because whoever he faces, he knocks out or he dominates. He fought Dillian White, Charles Martin, Dominic Breazeale, Molina, Klitschko, Takam, Parker, Povetkin, then lost to Ruiz. That had to be a rematch. That's fair enough. Then he fought Pulev. Then he fought Usyk, lost to Usyk. I think he should fight 2 or 3 fights against guys that we know that he can beat, to both build his name back up, but also, you know, he needs to I don't want to say learn better skills, but he needs to, you know, he's not beating Usyk again because he was so clearly outboxed last time out. You know, I think he needs to fight a Michael Hunter or an Oscar Rivas just to sort of almost get his name back out there. These are tough, awkward guys that he can beat. But I wouldn't, if I was Team Joshua, be jumping straight. The Usyk rematch is always going to be there.
Yeah, true.
I don't know if the rematch clause was that it has to be the next fight, but I think Usyk will. If Joshua puts himself back in a mandatory position, Usyk has to fight him.
Yeah.
And get yourself into that mandatory position whilst gaining experience from fighting a Michael Hunter, an Oscar Rivas, a rematch with or even, you know, a domestic battle with Joe Joyce. Sure. You know, these are all fights that would, you know, get yourself back in that mandatory position where Usyk has to fight you, but you're getting experience whilst doing that. He gains no real experience from just jumping straight back in there for a second Usyk fight. And then what? You know, he beats Usyk, and then what? He has to fight Usyk again. This is the same thing that we were talking about Tyson Fury. You know, we could see Joshua only facing in the next, you know, three years, the same guy. You know, if he won't fight now, obviously, until probably June 2022. If that's against Usyk and he beats Usyk, he won't then fight until December or January or February 2023. And, you know, yes, he's young, but, you know, he's only, what, 28, I think he is. Oh no, sorry, it's 31, Joshua. So
he's still young.
Exactly, but we don't want to see him but we don't want to see him take 3 or 4 years out of his boxing career just to be fighting rematches and fighting Usyk 3 times and fighting Ruiz twice. You know, these are fights that we should have. That I think, in my opinion, rematch clauses shouldn't exist in boxing, especially. Just one and done. You know, if you were beaten convincingly on that night, that's fair. Wilder Fury 2 had to happen because of the controversy around the result and the fact that it was a draw. There's no controversy around the Joshua Usyk fight. Joshua was well beaten and battered in that fight.
Yeah.
So move on from it. Get better fighting other people, then revisit the Usyk fight, in my opinion.
And I agree with you, because what we talked about last week is if Joshua loses to Usyk a second time, that's kind of it. Like, you are done now, right? You can't go back and make headline fights. You're just going to be another pretty good fighter, but you can't lose to him a second time. There's too high a risk. There's too much value that you would lose by doing that. But yeah, you need to get better somewhere. The problem is that how would it look if you don't take an immediate rematch? Like, you're essentially saying, like, yeah, I think Usyk beats me right now again. But like, in terms of how boxing pundits and boxing fans would see that, is there any issues with like, I think Usyk probably beats me, so I'm going to take 4 fights and then we'll run it back or something like that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you mean. I think, especially with the casual fan, you know, the Joshua does break over into that celebrity market where you get people that would, you know, the fight card that he fought on. You know, you had Callum Smith, Campbell Hassan, Lawrence Okoli, and a lot of the crowd, I feel, will have turned up at half 9 in the evening to catch Joshua's ring walk at 10. They're not bothered about boxing. They're bothered about seeing Anthony Joshua.
Yes.
Now, if he does fall a second time to Usyk, are people still going to be paying £80 or however much a ticket is to go and see a guy who's on a 2-fight loss streak, who has been well beaten twice? To be honest, probably, because the casual fan doesn't look at the fact that he's lost twice, but he's lost to the better guy twice. The casual fan thinks you'll bounce back this time with a big knockout and we'll get to see that live. Or
that's right. That's exactly what they think.
He's still a bit. It's like the casual fan will still tune in to watch a Conor McGregor fight.
Yeah.
Of course, we tune in to watch every fight night card, so it's not really relevant speaking from our point of view, but the casual fan will still tune in to watch the Conor McGregor card because they know they're going to get highlights from that fight itself.
That's true.
from a technical point of view, we watched Conor McGregor because he has got an amazing technique, but we also can see that every fight that he's in, we can see a big factor and big holes in his game that the opposition can exploit. And we're essentially speaking, yes, we're in the sport and we write about the sport, and we analyze the sport every day, every week, but we're not elite MMA fighters. Do you know what I mean? So if we can see the flaws, the coaches can see the flaws, but the casual fan won't be able to see those flaws. Yeah. The casual fan will watch McGregor knocking out Poirier in the first fight and say, that's definitely going to happen again. And then they'll see Poirier knocking out McGregor and be like, well, they're 1-1 now, so we've got to tune in for the third fight.
Yeah.
And we've got to tune in for the fourth fight, because the fourth fight, he broke his leg in the third fight, so it's not really a fair. Do you see what I'm saying? It's the casual fan will always tune in for a McGregor, a Masvidal, a Diaz, a Joshua, a Fury.
These aren't title fights either. The three
exactly.
biggest MMA stars are not title holders, and most of their big fights were not title fights, weirdly enough, right?
For sure. Yeah, exactly. And, they'll always tune in for those three guys in MMA, and in boxing, they'll always tune in for a Canelo fight. Yep. They'll always tune in for a Joshua fight, a Fury fight. When in reality, Terence Crawford's probably 1 or 2 pound for pound. Usyk's probably 1 or 2 pound for pound. Mm-hmm. These are guys that probably don't pull in big numbers, but they're the most technical boxers out there.
Yeah.
From our point of view, we'll tune in to watch that because we'll break it down and we'll see the technique and the way that they fought their opponent. But Joshua will always cross over into the mainstream because of his name and because of how it's promoted. But with that being said, if he loses 2 on the spin, he loses 3 on the spin, 4 on the spin, I think then the illusion around Joshua very much disappears.
I do agree with you. On MMA Sucka, we'll have lots of coverage this week going into the Fury Wilder fight this week, and we got lots of really cool stuff on the site from Andrew. He's really excited. He's going to have 3 pieces up on the site. What do you got going on this week? I know that you said you had a piece coming out today. What else we got going on? And
I've got the main event preview this for today. I did a piece on Casey O'Neill. I think it was on day after on Sunday. And on the site we've got plenty of we're covering a lot this week, and I think next week we'll obviously be breaking down the UFC card and having a look at the Fury Wilder fight, and probably having a few breakdown pieces on that up on the site. So, and we've obviously got a new site as well, so check that out.
Oh, that's right too. Yeah. So this weekend we have the UFC card, which starts fairly early, and then we got the Tyson Fury card, which starts at a normal time. So make sure to check those out. Anything else we need to send off? My name is Tim Wheaton with MMA Sucka. Frazer?
Yep, I think that's about it. I think we've covered everything that's happened in MMA, or the majority of stuff that's happened in MMA this week, and I'm sure this time next week we'll have hundreds of more headlines to discuss coming out of the fight night and the Wilder Fury fight. So I'll look forward to next week's pod.
Thanks so much for your time, Frazer.
Thank you very much, mate.